Hello, welcome everyone to the King County Regional Homeless Authority's regular meeting of the Continuum of Care Advisory Committee. Today's date is October 5th, 2022. We want to welcome all in attendance and those that may join us as we move forward. I'd like to start off with the land acknowledgement. Christy. Real quick, is Christy on?
I do see her. Let me unmute her. She should be able to talk.
Does anyone else like to give a land acknowledgement?
Oh, this for the land acknowledgement. Oh, hi there. I saw you on the agenda as doing it this time, Marvin, so I didn't prepare anything.
I'm sorry, I thought you were listed. Okay. Could you give us just a brief one? Because I didn't prepare one either. So I would like to acknowledge that we're on the traditional land of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish people, past and present, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish tribe. Should note that we continue our work here on the site of Indigenous people that have owned this land since the very beginning. I hope that our work always exhibits that acknowledgement. Catherine, could you do a roll call for us?
Sure. Tamara Bowman.
Here.
Reverend Dr. Kelly Brown.
Present.
Jenna Burgon. Lise Castro.
Right here.
Shanae Colston. I see you, Shanae. Are you able to respond?
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you. Brianna Franco. Marvin Futrell.
Here.
Christy Hamilton.
Yes.
Noreen Hill. Benjamin Mishk.
Present.
Linda Peoples. Marisol Tapia.
Present.
Christina S. I do not want to butcher your last name. I'm sorry, honey. Robin Tasuda. Karen Taylor. Sherry Tillman.
Here.
Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. With 10 members present, we do have more quorum.
Thank you, Catherine. Can we move on to review and approving of, I would say, September's minutes? Has everyone had an opportunity to read over the minutes from the September 7th regular meeting, the 26th special meeting, and then the 28th emergency meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, I second to approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve those 3 meeting minutes. All those in favor? Say aye.
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 All those opposed? Abstaining? All righty. We've passed, and we will now post those meeting minutes on the website. Moving right along to public comment. We welcome the public's comments, and we hope more join us as we continue this work. Do we have anybody waiting in the gallery? Or
Real quick, Marvin, I just want to point our attention to the chat, the Q&A. It says that
Yeah.
it looks like the link has expired for the meeting.
oh,
I have 13 members, and I will make sure that it is the correct one on the website.
can we do that now?
Yes, I am working on that right
When
now.
can I bring up my issue?
Under the section of the agenda for advisory committee members, it's right after the continuum of care SNOFO rating and ranking vote. If you have if the agendas, you can see the agenda. Please let me know when we've got the appropriate link and if anybody joins.
I am working on that right now.
You want to move on, Marvin, since we're waiting?
I'm more than happy. Yes, I'm more than happy to. Thank you. I wanted to state it publicly for our public to know that we will keep public comment open for the entirety of our meeting. If there is comment to be given, please let us know in the chat. And, thank you. Jen and Kelsey are going to take us through the Continuum of Care snowfall rating and ranking.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. For folks I haven't met yet, which I think I know everybody, but just in case, hello. Thanks again for your time and space on the agenda. My name is Jen Ozawa. I use she, her pronouns, and I serve in the role of procurement and policy manager at KCRHA. Work very closely with my fabulous colleague, I think most know, but I'll turn it over to Kelsey to also just introduce herself real quick.
Thanks, Jen. Hi, all. Kelsey Beckmeyer, she, her pronouns, Program and Performance Manager with KCRHA, helping to co-lead the NOFO and SNOFO process with Jen. It's wonderful to be here with you all today.
So we have some important work we need from you all as a committee. I'm gonna share my screen here. Can folks see? Oh, can folks see that okay? PowerPoint? Okay, cool. So apologies in advance for folks that have been kind of maybe closely connected to this work already. Kelsey and I, as you all know, this may feel very familiar because we literally just went through a very similar process collectively in getting the NOFO renewals completed and rated, ranked, and then submitted through the consolidated application. So this year, HUD has had a brilliant idea of hitting us with another RFP opportunity or NOFO opportunity, which we absolutely could not pass up, of course. We have enduringly called this process the SNOFO. From the HUD side of things, that's an acronym referring to the special NOFO. And NOFO, as you all probably already know, but just want to make sure, is the notice of funding opportunity. And this is brand new money. So brand new money available to COCs nationwide. So I'm going to give an overview of what that entails and then talk about our local RFP process that helped us to gather a pool of applicants that we have then tasked a community-based rating panel to score and then eventually rate and rank, which is what we will need your help with today as a committee to vote on the final rating and ranking order so that we can get that posted publicly and then confirm to HUD that we did meet the deadline of having that sort of publicly posted and done at this stage in the process. I'll take questions as we go, just organically as things come to mind. Feel free to just jump in. I'm going to put in the chat real quick a link to the HUD NOFO. So this goes out just publicly, just like KCRHA. Anytime we have a new funding process available, we publish NOFAs, notice of available funding, to let folks know that this is available. So this is what we as the COC co-leads have responded to. And then I'm going to walk us through exactly what that means and what that entails. So HUD is offering, and they're using underspend money from like years of underspend from other COC contracts that they have to be able to offer this new funding opportunity. It's specific to addressing unsheltered homelessness and also rural homelessness. Because of the nature of where our COC is located, being Seattle King County, we didn't fit the HUD definition of being eligible for the rural part. So we're just focused on the unsheltered opportunity. There are some kind of differences of what's sort of allowable and what's not in each category. So there is this will be a 3-year award, which is kind of unique. Usually HUD only offers 1 year at a time and then you renew over and over. This will be awarded in a 3-year contract. which annually breaks down to 4.7 million. Over the 3-year period, though, that breaks down to right here, 14.1 million. So a pretty good amount of new available funding for our COC is kind of is what we are competing for. HUD, with this money, the objective is for brand new programs. So that they could be currently funded COC agencies, like for example, DESC, Mary's Place, you know, they can be currently funded, but they have to be proposing new programs in these applications. They can't be funded by any other COC related funds. It has to be new. It can't be supplanted. So they can't like use the previous NOFA funds and then say, okay, we want to actually ask for more and try to go for the SNOFO funds. So those are some of the restrictions around that. Again, focused on the prevalence of unsheltered homelessness. So that means streets, encampments, tents, everything that we think of when we think of sort of unsheltered homelessness, to improve coordinated services, health outcomes, housing stability among unsheltered individuals and families. So both are eligible within this RFP. Partnerships with health and housing agencies to leverage mainstream housing and healthcare resources will score the highest. So we translated that into our local RFP, and I'll get into that in a minute. But also when we put forth our COC consolidated application, we will score higher in competition with other COCs if we've picked organizations who are able to leverage healthcare partnerships and other mainstream housing opportunities. So for example, I think of like housing vouchers, right? Like being able to leverage housing vouchers and then maybe apply for services and operations through this SNOFO. That's an example of kind of a good way of utilizing and leveraging resources. Some of the additional priorities from HUD's perspective, and then ultimately ours as well. Ensure people living unsheltered, including encampments, are successfully connected to healthcare and housing resources, specifically using a housing first, and they're really looking for a true housing first approach, and as well as public health principles. They're looking for organizations and COCs that have a commitment to entering information into the Homeless Management Information System, or HMIS. Demonstrate the ability to collaborate and coordinate with multiple systems and services. So they're really trying to aim towards kind of more push organizations towards a more seamless just service delivery, kind of collaboration and utilizing all services that we as humans need when our needs are not being met. Ensure individuals with lived experience. So this is one thing we're really happy about at KCRHA, and I'm sure you all. People with lived experience of homelessness are included in the operations and program designs being proposed. So that's a new HUD priority. It was also in effect sort of in the NOFO process that we all just went through, but again, translated and really emphasized in this NOFO as well, which is great. Another great thing that aligns with KCRHA's values is advanced equity for Black, Indigenous, and other people of color, as well as individuals who identify as LGBTQ and individuals living with disabilities. So all of these are priorities, and we're able to kind of ensure that we ensured that those things were prioritized in the RFP. And I think we got some good responses through applicants who are, prioritizing the same things. And we are looking for services that are offered throughout King County. So this is not specific to just Seattle or any one area. We did ask for anybody who wants to do work kind of across King County, apply for this SNOFO. So as far as applicant eligibility for, and I just want to clarify, so the SNOFO, sort of the overarching funding opportunity that as a COC we are competing for. And then again, within that, we had to run a local RFP, kind of similar like we did last time with some of the bonus funds. to decide, decide who we want to put forth in our consolidated application to HUD. So when I talk about eligibility, I'm also talking about like both processes, both the consolidated from HUD and then our local RFP too. We had to kind of translate in as well. So as far as who could apply to that RFP, government agencies, public housing agencies, private nonprofit organizations, which were of course, the majority. Faith-based organizations are eligible as well. Federally recognized or Washington state recognized Indian tribes, or community health associations that are public nonprofit organizations. So any of those entities were eligible to apply. We actually only had nonprofits apply to this opportunity. As far as program participant eligibility, so folks that would be receiving the services if awarded these funds, all participants must meet HUD's definition of literally homeless or chronically homeless. As a COC, HUD will award more points and kind of values COCs who do focus on serving individuals who meet the definition of chronically homeless. So we're going to do better points-wise for organizations who are proposing to serve chronically homeless individuals in their applications, their proposals. It also includes individuals who may be fleeing gender-based violence, so domestic violence, sexual assault, including sex trafficking, dating violence, and or stalking. We encourage folks to get creative, right? Because a lot of this is around leveraging resources and partnerships. So we ask folks to kind of think outside the box on how to do that. Yeah, in our community engagement leading up to releasing the RFP, folks had some really brilliant ideas around, and we kind of tried to like plant these ideas in prospective applicants' minds. But some of the gaps that were discussed were people experiencing homelessness who are also pregnant. That this funding opportunity would be a really great opportunity to go for if there was a program dedicated to serving individuals who are pregnant, just because of the nexus of healthcare and then also homelessness and housing. Also, culturally relevant wraparound services were identified as needs that are not currently being met. And then permanent supportive housing, so PSH, permanent supportive housing for elders in particular, just because that was identified as sort of a gap in services currently in our portfolio of housing. So based on community engagement, technically this SNOFO had 3 different eligible activities or kind of program areas that they are seeking to fund. One is new permanent supportive housing, so it has to be brand new to our continuum. This could be scattered site or project-based. Scattered site means that the housing could be through a private landlord, kind of throughout various different communities. Individuals, residents would maybe meet with their case managers to receive the support part of the housing, either at an agency or sometimes that service, those support services could be offered mobily, kind of just depends. There's a whole different, different makeups of that. Or project-based, which is when an organization has an actual building, it's subsidized in various ways, and then there's usually kind of clinical or support staff on site for residents to be able to access. Within permanent supportive housing, some of the eligible costs are operations, supportive services, rental assistance, or long-term leasing. So they could ask for funds to go towards any of those things for their permanent supportive housing program. The other eligible activity was new joint transitional housing to rapid rehousing. So this is kind of a movement, I think, across the nation amongst funders. HUD is not an exception, kind of moving away from that old school transitional housing model and more towards a transitional, which is like usually a 2-year program that transitions to a rapid rehousing model. And it's kind of determined by the actual resident on sort of the timing of that makes sense for that household. Are folks familiar with like transitional housing and rapid rehousing and what that means? Any questions about that? I just want to make sure that's clear. Okay.
I have a question. When you say
Yep.
long-term leasing, what does long-term mean to you?
Kelsey, do you have more insights on that?
Yes, so according to HUD, it's at least a year lease. So that
A
has
year's
to be,
12
yep,
months. Okay,
yep, that's a requirement for leasing for rapid rehousing, is it has to be a year-long lease.
great.
Yep. Thanks, Shanae.
And then, yeah. Then when you say joint transitional housing, I think you answered my question, but I just want to make sure I understand. That is not the old model, right? This will be like, they will have a chance to transition into permanent housing using rapid rehousing. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Yes.
Beautifully explained. Yep.
Yep. And
Okay, great.
another interesting thing about the joint component is that folks can choose if they want to be in the transitional housing component and the rapid rehousing, or just transitional housing, or just rapid rehousing. And it is up to 24 months total. Someone could be in transitional housing for 3 months and then transition into rapid rehousing. So there's some flexibility with what model type and program type and how long somebody is somewhere. So there's not a requirement to be in transitional housing for a certain amount of time, or to be even enter transitional housing at all. Someone could go straight into rapid rehousing.
Great questions. Thank you, Shanae. Yeah, and I think that's kind of generally like a more favorable model that works for more people, you know, less prescriptive. So the one area I mentioned, there was 3 potential activities available within the SNOFO, but based off of community engagement that we did in preparation for this local RFP, folks were really clear that, so outreach was the other component that was potentially available to fund. But based off community engagement, it was very clear to us that folks preferred to see this money, if awarded, to go towards creation of more housing versus outreach. Not to say outreach does not have a place and does not have an importance, it absolutely does. But I think the thought behind that is that there's plenty other funds potentially available in our current portfolio as a community outside of the COC, and other opportunities that could pay for that outreach, the outreach services that are needed. And what's lacking and what's really needed is actually additional housing and homes, right? Which is fewer and far between. So that's why we dedicated this RFP to focus all of the potential dollar amounts to those 2 things. As far as application requirements, so like the strings attached to this potential money that we wrote into the RFP, and a lot of this is also just required by HUD. So requirement is to input data into HMIS. That's across the board. That's required of anybody receiving any COC funds. Participation in the Seattle-King County Coordinated Entry System, same thing, very much so dictated by HUD. Or if it's a program that is working with survivors of gender-based violence, coordination with the local DV coordinated entry system, which is called DV Chat. Following COVID safety guidelines within their housing programs. Every program, again, this is a HUD restriction or HUD requirement, there has to be a 25% match. So for any budget proposal, they have to prove and show that they have outside funds to match 25% of their budget ask. They have to come up also with their unique identity identifier. That's basically like the new DUNS number or like social security number for organizations. So they have to be registered with that. And the reason for that is kind of like an extra assurance of kind of tracking to see how, make sure that organizations are, you know, fiscally responsible, doing good work. It's kind of like a Better Business Bureau type of like, I don't know, accountability, you know, place process. So they do have to comply with that and have that number. If they're using replacement reserves to like start any of their projects with other funds before they get the COC funds, then they need to show documentation of that and prove that in advance. We didn't get any proposals that were proposing that, so that's good. It's a little less complicated. If they ask for a federally approved indirect cost rate, which allows for them to ask for more than the 10% towards admin for their organization, then they had to show documentation for that. And that's like a whole approval process they go through HUD. I can't remember off the top of my head if we had any ones that asked for additional indirect. And then this cool feature that I'm really excited about. Oh, Christy? Okay, thanks. So one additional thing that we added, KCRHA added in collaboration with the LEC is, and this will go into contracts if we are awarded these funds, commitment to continuous quality improvement in coordination with the LEC. So the LEC has embarked on a process of sort of evaluation and working with clients, consumers, customers of various organizations that are funded by KCRHA. And getting actual feedback like on the ground from individuals receiving services. And we're saying that if you are awarded those funds, then there's going to be an expectation that you participate in that process. So that's new. We'll see how that goes and as that continues to develop.
Will they know what that process is?
Yeah, so it's going to be a great question. Yes, it's going to be a whole kind of one planning process internally with LEC and KCRHA so that we all know what we're trying to accomplish and doing. And then two, like a training process that our programs teams will need to do as well eventually, so that the organizations know what to expect and how to meet that requirement and also like just engage with the new process.
Gotcha. Thank you.
But it's definitely just full transparency, still being fleshed out. And these contracts won't go into place until 2023 if awarded by COC, if awarded by HUD. So there's still some time to be thoughtful in how to roll that out and how to continue to plan that. Any questions about the funding opportunity before I get into sort of the nuances of the outcome and then the rating?
I have a question. This is Noreen Hill.
Yes, Noreen.
You mentioned private nonprofits. What does that mean?
Let me see. That may be a
the very beginning of eligibility.
Okay, here. Program. I don't know what that means. I have to be totally honest. Just nonprofit organizations. So 501c3s.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
I thought there was another category somewhere I didn't know about.
I don't think so, unless it's come up, this past tax year or something. Not that I'm aware of either.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that, and thanks for clarifying. Yeah, just 501c3s are eligible. That was either a typo or something that I copy and pasted from HUD that doesn't apply to us. Any other questions? Okay.
Yeah, questions for the application overview. You received 4 so far, or what does this part mean?
Yeah. Okay, great segue. Thank you, Noreen. So the application closed a couple weeks ago for applicants to apply. We received a total of 4 applications total. So below are the applicants who did apply. So DESC proposed a SHARP program. They also proposed a Woodland program, both of which are permanent supportive housing. Plymouth Housing also proposed an application for their Blake Housing permanent supportive housing program. And then St. Stephen's Housing Association proposed a joint transitional to rapid rehousing program for their Nike Manor location. So we've received a total of 4. They're all nonprofit organizations. They all served, so 3 of which were permanent supportive housing, 1 of which was the joint component. And then we also have, KCRHA is also eligible for a planning grant which will help to support staffing and other just capacity for the COC planning work, which is up to 3% of the total grant amount. If the rating panel decided, to kind of go that route. So based on the applications, I'll be honest, the DESC Sharp application was kind of unclear if they were in fact a true permanent supportive housing program, because in their proposal, they didn't really, they weren't able to super clearly identify like the actual housing, the permanent housing mechanism in which they would use to ensure that folks actually did in fact get housing. So it seemed a little bit more of like an outreach strategy. But we did forward it to the review panel for their interpretations and their kind of brains as well. So once we got all the applications and information from proposers, we immediately forwarded it to our rating panel. Yeah, Sherry?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Question. So you mentioned Mary's Place at the beginning. What was that for?
Oh, just an example of like currently funded COC organizations. Just an example of like DESC, for example, in this, they applied and they have other programs that are funded by COC. But they couldn't, no organization can propose in this RFP to fund a program that's existing that has COC funds involved in it already.
Oh, okay. Okay, I was just trying to get the understanding on that because I didn't want to be like a conflict of interest because I work for them and because of the contract with county managing that as well. So that's why I was asking.
Thank you. I appreciate that that question and that transparency. And they did not apply, so I don't think there'd be any conflict in voting today on that. So we had a very robust, we had no idea what to expect as far as, application turnout. It could be either a lot or few, which clearly we got few. I think one of the big reasons for that was because the super fast turnaround. There was only 3 weeks for applicants, and this is mostly HUD kind of driving this timeline. This is not ideal for how we want to operate our funding processes. But based on trying to meet HUD's deadlines and things like that, it ended up being a 3-week turnaround from when the RFP was announced until when applications were due. And as you all know, I mean, housing programs are very complex. That's a lot to write about, a lot to figure out as far as the blend of funding and things like that. So I think that was one of the biggest barriers to not receiving a big outpour for this particular RFP. But we plan for, a high volume just to be safe. And I'm glad we did because it worked out well. But we had a very diverse rater panel of 12 people and then 1 backup rater just in case. There was various reasons. So we are being very intentional and wanting to make sure that people with lived experience are in the decision-making seats for these processes. We had 7 members who, we had a couple members who were not able to engage in the whole rating process for various reasons, either personal reasons, barriers with the technology and things like that, which presented good learning opportunities for us kind of in other funding processes to make sure, for example, that KCRHA provides adequate desk space, computer, internet, the tools to be successful, right, for raters. So I'll get to you in just a second, Karen. So we had a couple of folks that were not able to fully kind of see the whole process through, but use this anyway as a training opportunity for folks so that we can plug individuals in other funding processes. I'll pause right there. Karen?
Yeah, you said something about having the community involved in the decision making here, but I am a member of the community and I don't feel comfortable in this meeting. I feel like this meeting is being taken over by systems. You know what I mean? And I feel that that's unfair, that I don't feel like I can speak. I don't know when it's appropriate to speak, or, oh, is that inappropriate? Is that disrespectful for me to just say what I want to say? You know, and I'm just feeling like, you know, have the community at the table at what cost and what limitation and at whose comfort? Because I'm definitely not comfortable. I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable being honest. I don't feel comfortable saying what I need to say when I need to say it. I feel like everybody else is more important than me. You know what I'm saying? Everybody else's agenda is more important than my life and how I have to live. You know, and to me, that's very, very disrespectful to the community. When you're talking about having the community in the room, have the community in the room in a relationship with y'all. We're not in relationship. That's what the problem is. We're not in relationship. I don't know. I don't even know what your name is. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know what's going on. And I'm really feeling like just bowing out here, because for the longest, I have not even gotten paid. You know what I'm saying? And I wasn't even doing it for the pay. But the process is so messed up that I don't even want it. I'm not going to fight for it. I'm just telling you, as a community member at this point right now, I'm feeling very uncomfortable and very disrespected. Yes, there's pay, Dr. Brown. Yes, there's stipends that we're supposed to be getting that we have not been getting because nobody cares about us. And that's my point here. It's all about them, their agenda, their system. It's never about the community and how we feel. I don't feel respected, and I don't feel like we're in relationship. And I don't play like that. I'm not going to be fake and sit here and ignore how I feel inside.
Yeah, Karen, I don't want you to feel that way at all. I think I don't have any authority over the pay, but that's not okay. Everybody who's giving their time and has been, you know, told that they need to be paid should be paid. I'm happy to meet offline and try to talk through anything I can do in my role to continue to support your involvement if you want to continue to be. It's absolutely your choice. If you don't feel comfortable, don't be in a space you do not feel comfortable. We do need you though at this table. At the same time, you know, is there anything that I can do in this conversation right now to help answer any questions that you have?
Well, I'm just feeling like, you know, like when I was trying to talk to Marvin, who is our voted chair of this committee, about it before the meeting even started. I was told that I was like basically out of place for asking, and we shouldn't talk about this now. Well, I emailed everybody about it, and I have not gotten any results. And I just don't think that I'm being taken seriously, and I don't think that I matter here. So, I mean, I know you guys are talking about the money and the continuum of care. I'm reading this as I'm talking, but you know, there's other things going on in people's lives that are happening. And I've seen all the texting and all the chatting about not even knowing about what I'm talking about. And so that just goes to show how untogether we are, you know? And I'm at my wit's end about it. And I wish somebody else would speak up, because I'm not the only one that feels this way.
So, excuse me, Jen, I'm going to step in at this moment. There are times in this meeting for us to continue that conversation. I really want to uplift the work that several members of the COC did in conjunction with the RHA at presenting us these options today. And I really am hoping that the board is able to vote, and then we can get on to other just as important matters for our work today.
Yeah, keep pushing the agenda, because that's all that's important, right, Marvin?
It is part of the work. It is part of the work that several other members on the board dedicated themselves to. I don't want to not acknowledge their efforts when we have space and time to talk about each and every position. So, Jen, were you please continue with the presentation so we can see if we can take our next step.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I'm here to talk to as well, Karen. If you'd like to reach out, I'll put my email in the chat as well.
No, we're a board and we should be able to talk. I understand you guys got something you want me to vote on. I'm gonna abstain. So go ahead and do your thing.
Okay. Okay, so after we received the 4 applications, we submitted them to the rater panel. As I was mentioning, we had a panel of 12. All 12 individuals still remained in the process. Some just were not able to completely rate all of the applications. So we instead used it as a training opportunity for folks to just build up, right? Build up like the rating process so that folks can engage in future processes. So we landed with 7 members at the end who casted their final votes for rating and ranking. And what that entailed was scoring each application. So every individual scored each application. So we had an average based off of the 7 members' perspectives of scores, which I think is best practice, right? It's not just one individual choosing one, you know, a decision of millions of dollars based off of one person's vote or one person's score. The composition of the 7 members who voted, 2 members identified as having lived experience or were formerly from the LEC. Other folks below this also identified, one other also identified as having lived experience as well, but works at KCRHA. So 3 members are from KCRHA, 2 from the capacity team, which has good perspective on sort of small grassroots organizations, because that's the role that they serve, is building capacity for BIPOC-led and grassroots orgs. And then 1 staff member from the City of Seattle Department of Housing, which was good insight just because of the potential use of various different permanent supportive housing programs that are kind of in process in conjunction with Department of Housing, and then also just their familiarity with vouchers as well. So yesterday, I'll give kind of a synopsis, and Kelsey, please jump into if I miss anything. Folks had 2 weeks to review the applications and submit their scores to us. We had a very long meeting, I think 4-hour long discussion yesterday with all the 12 members, and then focused on the 7 members' scores that put forth their scores. Had a lot of deliberation around, you know, which organizations and proposals to move forward and why. Folks ended up, based off the conversation, actually adjusting sort of the initial top ranking applicants, and this is where they landed, and this is essentially the rating and ranking of the 4 proposals that were submitted through this RFP. So number 1 ranked was the Plymouth Housing Blake House Permanent Supportive Housing Program. They specifically serve individuals who are chronically homeless, and then single adults specifically. The geographic area is in Seattle. They scored an 86, and they're asking for about $1.5 million. Followed by DESC. So this was where it was kind of flipped, to be honest. After discussion there, they decided that Blake House was sort of the number 1 when initially it was DESC Woodland. Again, target population is individuals, not families, but individuals who meet the definition of chronically homeless. This is within the Seattle area. Permanent supportive housing. They ranked 85.1, and they are asking for $2.7 million. Some of the reasons why they were kind of ranked in the second position versus first was the budget ask was considerably more, and then the timing of when their new project comes online was a little more delayed. And so in the raters conversation, that was sort of reason to put forth the Plymouth Housing Blake House proposal in the #1 position. DSC was followed by St. Stephen's Housing Association, Nike Manor. They serve families, which was another big reason why they were ranked, because of the lack of family-centered housing. They work across, so they have a location in Kent that will be their sort of transitional housing place, and then rapid rehousing is county-wide, based off of kind of preference and availability. And that is a joint component transitional housing to rapid rehousing model. It scored 76, and they're asking for $230,000, almost 231. And then we had the rating panel felt that it was important to make sure that our COC planning is adequately staffed and funded so that we could be successful at ongoing attempts to renew our COC funding portfolio and then any new funds that may come available, like this opportunity. So they did ask that this isn't a rated component, but it is ranked. So we did put at the bottom, and I'll turn it over to Kelsey here in a minute to explain how kind of the rating and ranking works, if that's okay. But they did propose that KCRHA receive the full 3% of the total 4.7 million towards planning, which could potentially mean that we get an additional position to help out with this massive amount of workload. And then I want to just point out at the bottom, so DESC, the SHARP program, so that was one of the 4 applications. It was a permit supportive housing program. They serve chronically homeless single adults, kind of all over King County. It scored 70, and they asked for 328,000. And the rating panel decided not to put this application within the rating and ranking just because of the lack of clarity of how exactly they were going to leverage housing resources. It seemed a little bit more like an outreach strategy, which they again wanted to prioritize organizations proposing to actually, provide homes for individuals and families. Kelsey, would you mind popping in real quick and just explaining how when HUD will get their, get the final rating and ranking from us and how they will analyze this and potentially make awards?
Yes, thanks. So the initial way that HUD is looking at awarding new programs through the special NOFO is first through our consolidated application and plan to address unsheltered homelessness. This is the application that we as the COC will put forth to HUD. We are currently working on that right now, and hoping to get a full draft to all of you on the 11th at the very latest. If I can get you all a full draft by the end of Friday, I will do that. We are working really diligently to get as much material as possible. And I'll likely send out a preliminary on Friday afternoon, as well as a fuller draft if it's not completely full on Friday, then on Tuesday. I'm rambling. So they will initially look at that consolidated application. And then based upon the scores of every COC, HUD will then look at the highest ranking COC and look at their rating and ranking and award all of their projects, and then go to the next COC, look at their rating and ranking, award all of their projects, so on and so forth until basically they're out of the money. Historically, our COC has rated quite well. Compared to in the nation, we are usually above average and on the kind of the higher end of rating, and for the COC. So it is very likely that we will do well. Fingers, toes, everything crossed, salt over my shoulder. Please send all of the luck our way, y'all. And with the rating and ranking here, this is different than the typical NOFA where there is tiering. There is no tiering here. So it is very likely that we will receive funding for each project as it's within the amount that we are allotted to apply for. And we historically have scored well as a continuum. Should that continue to be the case, it is quite likely that all 4 projects will get fully funded. That is our hope, that is the goal. And it is not likely, should all the projects meet HUD's threshold requirements, which was reviewed through the RFP process, that everything should be approved and awarded. We prioritize, as that is asked of us by HUD, to prioritize. Should there, once they get to our continuum where we score, should it be that there is not that 14 million available, that they would award fewer projects. Again, I don't see that happening. However, it is something that we have to be prepared for, thus the ranking. So should we not get all the things awarded, the first thing to not be awarded would be the planning grant, and they would go kind of up the list from there. The other thing that we looked at in terms of prioritizing our list was also looking at our local values and priorities that the you all as the advisory committee reviewed and approved back in July, I believe. And some of those priorities are really about anchoring projects in the voice of lived experience, power sharing. So we did look at board composition of every program to look at how many of these boards have dedicated seats to folks with lived experience. How are these programs incorporating folks with lived experience in their program design and feedback? So those were other priorities that were looked at aside from like the objective rating and scoring that help decide the priority order as well. I will send it back to you, Jen.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. So with that said, any questions before we go to vote on what is in front of us right now, which is the rating and ranking, and rating meaning the scores, ranking meaning the order in which the applications are being listed for priority for funding. That's in front of us right now. Totally okay with uncomfortable silence, recognizing folks need to process and think through. So we'll give it another minute and then post vote.
So can you remind me what the timeline is again for when this needs to be submitted to HUD?
Oh, great segue. Yes, I think I have a slide for that. I do. So hopefully we can get your approval today. That's the, where we're at in the application process. We do have to post that today, the final rating and ranking per HUD deadline. They want to see that it's been like publicly posted. So we have our comms team ready and kind of chomping at the bit to get that up as soon as you all make a decision. That's today. We will send the draft consolidated application similar to the NOFO process in advance, do the best that we can do. As Kelsey mentioned, shooting for the stars on Friday. If not, definitely no later than Tuesday. the 11th. So we'll make sure that that gets out to everybody. Please, if you can, give that a review, because we will need your vote, and that's similar to the last vote. Super crucial we have quorum, so that we don't run into the issues that we ran into last time. Catherine,
Sorry, so there's not another, we don't have another meeting, like, so we would have to do a special meeting
yeah, we're gonna have to do
or risk losing the funding. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Thank you, Benjamin. So Catherine has a meeting queued up for us. We connected before the meeting on the 14th. So next Friday, a special meeting. Hopefully, and again, thank you for your time. I know you all are super busy and it's an additional meeting to add to your calendars. Totally recognize that. Hopefully it won't be too long. It's only 4 applications.
I'm sorry. I see that Karen's hand raised. I don't mean to interrupt, but so we need to vote to move this to put the list on today, and then we also need a second approval vote, and we have to have a special meeting or we lose the funding. Got it.
Yep. Thanks for summing that up way more concisely than me.
So we're
Karen.
voting on $50 million going to Lehigh, DESC, and who else?
I'll go back. It's not Lehigh, and it's not 50 million. So this one is up to 14 so it's 4.7 million on the side. If you're able to, are you able to see the screen, Karen? Just want to make sure.
I see it, but it's so small. I can't, I'm just listening.
Okay, got you. Sorry about that. Let me see if I can try to zoom too. But to answer your question, the funding amount available on an annual basis is $4,700,907, or over the 3-year period, which is how this funding will be granted. The 3-year period is up to $14,102,723.
And who is it? Who are we giving it to? Who do you want us to give it to? Or we're voting on a rate, how it's rated?
Correct. Yeah. So the way it is rated and ranked based off of, and it's not us, it's not Kelsey and I, it's the 12 panelists, or ultimately 7 to be honest, voted to put this, what's in front of us, what's in front of the committee right now, which is Plymouth Housing Blake House, which is a permanent supportive housing. So that would mean, like, let's say
I got it. Plymouth House and Blake House. And what are the other ones?
DESC Woodland.
Mm-hmm.
And then St. Stephen's Housing Association, Nike Manor. Lehigh is not on this list. They did not apply. And then KCRHA for our planning grant. So to help with the costs of the planning for the COC on an ongoing basis.
And so I just want to say that we know that the homeless situation is not getting any better. It's increasing. So we're in a hurry to give all this money in a hurry, in a snap decision, since we weren't able to make the decision last meeting because of quorum or whatever. But we're in a hurry to do this. But our voices don't get heard on issues that we have. And it's a process, and it's not appropriate to speak about it. I'm just saying, I'm voting no. That's my vote.
Benjamin?
Thank you. Yeah, Ben?
Oh, sorry, Marvin, did you want to go first?
No, I wanted to acknowledge that you were next.
Okay, I just want to say that I very much appreciate what Karen is saying. I know the next thing on the agenda is we're going to have a conversation about this, but it is very frustrating to, I guess we'll talk about it in a second. It is very frustrating the way the KCRHA has interacted with this board since our conception. And this does not feel like a great process, particularly on top of the previous process. I very much respect the board members and community members who work together on this list, but it is very hard for us to feel like, we are really playing a meaningful oversight role over these funds. At the same time, I will say personally that as frustrated as I am, I personally, there's no judgment, I personally am not ready to vote no and cost the community the potential for these dollars because we so desperately need them. But I absolutely respect the choice because it kind of feels like that's the only way that we're going to get KCRHA to listen to us. Anyway, I just wanted to say that and just say, Karen, I really, really respect and appreciate that you keep bringing this up.
And I respect you, and I feel the same way. I do want to see the money go somewhere where it's benefiting the community. But when we're continuing to hurt each other, and I feel like I'm being rushed, I'm being pushed, I'm being prodded, and I'm not being treated with respect in this continuum, you know, it's hard for me, Ben. It's really hard for me to even want to stay. Some of you here, I truly love, you know, but some of you, I'm so far from the way you act. It's ridiculous. And we're not in relationship and we're not together. We're not cohesive. So it's hard for me. So I want you guys to do what you want to do. I just have to be me.
Thank you. Are there anybody else want to speak? I think we have a next step here that we need to take a look at.
Well, I guess we were talking about the scoring. And so what did they base the scoring off of? Just the application requirements? Or was it with listening to the people who've had experiences with those agencies and what that is, right? Like, I'm kind of confused on how we get these scores if we're just going off of, oh, well, we get a score because you guys hit the check boxes on this application. Like, I really need to know what these agencies are doing without fluffing up an application to meet the standards, right? And I say that because I have experience with doing these RFQs, RFTs, RFPs, and approving them and reading over them. And in my experience, that's what it is. I give you an application process, and as long as you make and mark these boxes, you have a chance of getting this money. But there's no accountability to Plymouth Housing, DSC, Stevens Housing Association. I mean, to be honest with you, before you guys sent me this information, this was the first I've ever heard of Stevens Housing Association. And I've been in this field of work for 10 years, housing people. And so that's kind of concerning to me. And then when I go on their website and I look up these agencies, that's the thing. So I heard you say earlier, Jen, that there will be some oversight from the LEC, but at this point, the LEC itself doesn't have oversight. So that seems kind of a joke to me, right? That we're having another agency, which I get why LEC's there, but at this point in time, LEC doesn't even have their own oversight over their own stuff. So to keep adding to it, like, oh, you guys can have a person come here and sit at this table and speak, and you can have this, it doesn't create nothing because there's nobody checking the LEC. So these are just kind of my concerns. Back to my first question, besides the application process, what other standards are used to make these scores?
So thank you. That's a really important question. Besides the application for this particular process, that is what it was, the application and the criteria. And I'm happy I can pull up the criteria. Do you want me to pull up the criteria? Anybody?
No, I know what the criteria is, but that's what I'm saying. So people can just, again, check boxes. And as long as you are the Black person without the house, then Shanae, you qualify, right? Like, that's all it is me putting shit down on an application. It's all that is these agencies putting down on an application. I need to get to the root. My board members are asking and have continuously asked since the start of this board for checks and balances for the agencies that we're giving millions of dollars to. And yet here we are for the second thing that you guys are like, oh, we got to vote on, and none of that has been in place. Right. And so that's where you hear the frustration from my fellow colleagues, from the board members, is that we've continuously asked for these things. And then, as I shared with you in our own meeting, right, prior to this, Jen, I told you my board members were not going to be happy, right? Because they're tired of it. And this is the continuous cycle of abuse that we have received from King County Regional Homeless Authority. And so I just feel like, as the chairperson, I have to speak up when they're saying that. And I want you guys all to know that I told Jen and everybody at our previous meeting before we set the agenda that this was going to happen, because I hear you guys, I see you guys, I know what you guys are saying. I have emails from my board members personally to me, explaining their frustration, their upsetness, you know, and frankly, their inability to trust this system anymore, right? Because it's still being falsified. It's still kind of fake. The transparency is not there. And so I hear what Karen's saying. I hear what Ben's saying. You know, we had that same kind of approach when it came to the first NOFA. I mean, that's why people didn't show up, because they don't feel included. They don't feel like we're informed properly. And again, the same question still arises, is when are we going to check on the agencies that we're given millions of dollars to?
Thank you for sharing that. And I feel and hear and see the frustration here. And as somebody who is tasked with working within the COC, and that's one of my roles in my position that I serve in, we need to have a strong relationship. You know, there needs to be bridge there. If not, then I think the community suffers. So what can we do? Like, I hear you, and I hear that it's like too late at this moment in time, but I don't think it's ever too late to go back. I mean, we are all tasked with a job and a responsibility that's much bigger than any one of us, right? We have $14 million on the line at the moment, that we know people desperately need housing. And I'm not saying that I'm just saying that to focus, like that is the task at hand at the moment. And clearly we have a lot more work to do to build our relationships and trust with one another. And I want to know, because it hasn't been shared with me explicitly, what I need to do in my role to better make sure I show up for you all and get you.
Well, first, I
build
just
your
want to
job.
read from the chat, right? So Kelsey explained that single adults, what SA was, and that they aim to send Tuesday at the latest due to the Monday being Indigenous Peoples Day to send out the paperwork. Christy Hamilton says, well, she said fucking A. That's just what it is. I'm not going to mess with her language. And then Marisol says, do we have access to the scoring guide, scoring cards, and summary, as it's important for making a decision? That's one. Noreen,
Can I speak to that real quick?
Yep, please do.
So based off of, so yes, I sent out prior to the meeting so that folks, because we literally met yesterday, we're under very similar time constraints. We're not super happy about it either, Kelsey and I. This is not ideal, like I mentioned. This is not how we, KCRHA, wants to go about our funding opportunities in the, you know, when we have control over that. But unfortunately, HUD is dictating a lot of these deadlines. Not super friendly.
Yeah, but sending out paperwork last minute, it doesn't work for the community. It never has. Sitting down and talking to people, having dinner, having a relationship with people where they can understand your perspective and where you're coming from is how you build relationship with the community. And that is what you guys are not good at.
I hear you. Yeah.
So Marisol, Jen said that she sent that stuff out. Did you not receive it?
I did find an email yesterday with an attachment titled Semi-Final NOFO Project, but that's what I'm seeing right now on the screen. So what I'm asking is, did a summary go out with the scoring of each of the applicants for each of the questions in each of the sections that were rated? And also, what was the scoring guide that was used? That's often what you have in any RFP process. So if we can have that detailed information, I think that's I think what's missing.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's see, I want to make sure folks got, so that, yes, that was sent out yesterday. We acknowledged that was going to be very last minute. And instead we also are, you know, in preparation to be more timely. We also sent out an overview of the rating criteria a week in advance. So I sent that, maybe it was a little under a week, like a day under. Let's see, where did that get sent? And that was based off of Shanae's prepping us of kind of how the group is feeling at the moment and the need to be able to have time to digest what's going to be voted on and discussed and things like that.
And do you have a document that maybe you can share with us right now and go over that shows the summary?
Absolutely, and I'm trying to find it right now through my email. Hang on a second, please.
While you're looking for that, I'm going to still read off the chat. I have a couple more.
Yes.
Tamara let us know that she believes SPC subcommittee will be working with Kelsey, Jen, and Full Frame Initiative to revamp the procurement process. Accountability for project applicants will be key to future NOFO and SNOFO fundings. Christy Hamilton says we're just filling a quota as a COC board so KCRHA can get the funding. I responded correct. Ask me about filling a quota to make your demographics look good. Noreen replies, can we hear from our members that sat on the team to choose successful applicants? And then, so who was, I guess that's the question. Thank you, Noreen. Who was on those 7 people who ranked this in the SNOFO? Do we have members that were there?
Jen,
No, because apparently the people that were interested on this board were not notified until the day of the SNOFO testing. They were having thank you.
So I'm going to raise that as a concern, right? If we're to be included, as Ben said, if we're the oversight and we're not able to have one of our members participate, then that's inequitable. And it's not even part of, we're not overseeing anything. Go ahead.
If I may,
Yeah.
I do want to give some credit to Jen and Shawnee, who led getting raters. That process for the SNOFO actually started about a month ago to get raters and rankers. And we are, for RFP processes, raters' identities aren't allowed to be disclosed. Jen, please correct me if I'm wrong on that one. So for the NOFO process that we did initially, yes, getting raters and rankers, we were definitely very last minute. For this process, I do want to say Shawnee and Jen did a lot of effort to make sure we corrected that last minute action. And we feel a lot of your same frustrations. This has been a whirlwind process that has not been the intention and community building that we want our processing and the NOFO process to be. It has been really, really hard. Really hard.
So I'm just saying, because if people are asked, that's the question, right? If there are people on this board that were there, we just like to hear directly from them because it's transparent. We know that we're going to get the real deal. It's not going to be subjected to fakeness, right? And so I think that's what we're looking for, not really to identify you, to call you out, but more to because we do have some trust among our board members, and so it'd be best to hear from them, right, than outsiders, basically, is what we're asking, not for people to be shunned or called out. So if that's not a thing, or you don't feel comfortable announcing yourself, don't feel obligated, but I just wanted to give the reasoning on why we would ask that.
So I'll step in. Tamara, do you want to cover what board members did within this process?
Are we talking NOFO or SNOFO?
Well, SNOFO, I guess is the topic now.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't part of the SNOFO process, but the NOFO I was.
So then I will weigh in. For the SNOFO process, I put out the call for raters. When asked, I tried to inform the board, which we did, and we reached out to the community of folks with lived experience, and that wasn't just the Washington State LEC. That was
You didn't reach out, Marvin. No, you didn't.
If I missed anyone, I will always apologize, but I will not accept what's not mine to bear, which is I thought that that what was needed was being shared with the group as a whole. I struggle over this all the time. Shanae works with me so that we try to get the information out. I preface that on, I'm always trying to do what the board has said that they want. When the process doesn't allow time, I put time on an agenda for us to actually work through it so that we're able to move the needle to where we want it to be operationally and try to accomplish the task that affects so many more than just us here. So,
Speaking of,
Uh,
can you also list the next LEC board meeting? I haven't been invited to one of those in a long time. I'm really interested. They moved from Fridays to Mondays, and now I'm not sure when they are. So I'd really like the information on those.
There's
LEC
still
board
Fridays
meetings.
at 2.
and we'll send you an invite.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I want to, can folks see the screen okay? Just share what I thought was sent out. So it sounds like maybe a opportunity to figure out how information is shared amongst the committee, because I sent this out on September 29th, and I'm sensing that maybe the whole committee did not get this. And Marvin just brought up another example of maybe communications that are not being distributed. So this is an overview real quick of the rating and ranking, the RFP criteria in which the raters were trained. We had one thing I forgot to mention is a implicit bias training, and then training of the actual RFP kind of process and what it entailed and things like that. And so this is how the lens in which the raters were asked to essentially rate the various different parts of the RFP. And then the points that correspond. And oftentimes the points, like someone I mentioned before, kind of dictate like the priorities or really what the funder is looking for. So as you can see, we weighted the points heavily on partnerships, and then also on, you know, what they're proposing, which also includes some of the and racial equity as well. So 35 points there, 20 points on the kind of program model, were the highest sort of chunk of respective points, and then partnerships as well. I want to go back to our chat. Ben says, I recognize HUD gave very short timelines for these two NOFOs, which has made this too difficult. Two processes rather difficult, but I want to acknowledge that the frustrations being exhibited today are not new, and they were not created in the last month or two. Okay, thank you for that, Ben. I will just say that, you know, for me personally, working, you know, having the COC and having an oversight committee. The oversight committee, you all have a very important, we all have very important jobs to our community, right? Oversight committee, when they were talking about like distrust of organizations, of like fluffing up applications, we know that happens, absolutely. And I'm not going to be, you know, dishonest about that. Our system in which we allocate funds and have historically for many, many decades is flawed. And KCRHA is trying to make a concerted effort to flip how some of that is done. And by having a COC committee with all of you strong individuals that were going to speak up and call the BS out, it is part of how I think we'll get there, right? But when it comes to what final decisions, funding, you know, who is ultimately funded, and then what accountability measures are going to be held to see that those organizations do what they say they're going to do in their applications, and that people are going to have good experiences when they're accessing services, to me, that's the power that this committee has. And that's the role and responsibilities that you have. And I want to do whatever I can to support that. I hear your frustrations and can do better. And I want to do that, but you have to share with me what you all need. You know, you asked for additional information prior to a meeting, which I get. I'm the same way. I need to know how to prepare myself, right? So I can show up well when I need to make decisions. I provided, you know, the information here, an overview of the funding opportunity, as well as the criteria. But it seems to be a bit breakdown in how this group is communicating with one another, that this information didn't get to you all in time. And I'm sorry for that. And want to acknowledge that I think that there's some opportunity to improve as, you know, as the group. Marisol?
Yeah, thank you for sharing the criteria. And then if we can also receive the scoring summary of the proposals.
Yeah, let me pull that up. And then I'll also pull up, if it's helpful, because we did this virtually yesterday. I pulled out comments and they're not identified. I don't think I put names on them. I hope I didn't. I think I just used their alias. I can share that as well. So you guys can kind of see some of the feedback and thoughts. Is that helpful?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, bear with me one second. And
It looks like the highest scored part of the proposal was the, how is your work advancing racial equity and social justice, 25 points or 35 points? Was that the highest ranked question?
it was the most weighted. Yes, it had the most points.
Okay.
That one, yep. Okay, bear with me one second. Any other questions, thoughts, or solutions on how we can collectively work together and seeing this look different moving forward?
Again, I'm gonna tell you, just like you said, we need information 7 to 10 days prior, right? To the point where we're about to write it in our charter. So moving forward, like if people ain't doing that, you can't expect us to do nothing then. Because if you can't follow our rules, we can't help you all out. It's just frustrating. You hear that throughout every board member that's been here today, whether it's text or chat. So that's number one, right? Passing that information to whoever wants to come and present to this board. If you have a PowerPoint, a letter, a application, anything that needs some type of document that needs to be reviewed on, that you want our opinion on, it needs to be 7 to 10 days, and we need to make sure that everybody has gotten it. Two, it's just respectable stuff, right? It's the same stuff. I can give you a whole list, email after email, of what their expectations are and what their needs are on this committee.
Please do. I mean, I think we can't, no one can read minds. If you can, let me know, because I need some mind reading. But
it's not about reading minds, Jen. It's really the fact that this will probably be about the 21st time that I've sent this out to somebody, right? At King County Regional Homeless Authority, right? Like that's the problem.
Who have you sent it to?
Was talking about. We've been talking about this since we all came to the table day one.
Okay.
So when we have people such as yourself come in and say, hey, I want to help you, and we've given them the information to 20 other people and nothing's changed, that's where you hear the animosity and the frustration intensify.
So do we need to maybe put it in writing to Peter, or to who does this go to? Because it sounds like this has been going on. I know I missed like probably several meetings myself. There's always this frustration. How can we support the work that we're all doing and make King County accountable, so that we don't have to be blasting the staff, on this, when staff are just in the same situation as us?
We need to recognize the power that we have as an advisory board.
I'm not blasting the staff, I'm not blasting Jen or Kelsey. When I'm saying this is systemic, continuum,
right,
of practices that these systems have been doing, and it's just more colorful. They do more presentations and more long-winded talking, and talking people to the point of confusion, and nothing has changed when it comes to where does the money, the power, and the control sit. It still sits in the seat of white supremacy, in my opinion, right? And so I'm angry, not at Jen's presentation. I'm just angry that we haven't changed how we're doing it. We got more people of color sitting at the table, but we're still not in relationship, and we're not used to, and we're still using COVID as a means to not get cohesive or build relationships. You know what I'm saying? It's not a personal attack. It's a systemic attack. That's who I'm fighting. I'm not fighting anybody personally. I'm just saying, include me, value me, appreciate the fact that I don't have time to read all this stuff every freaking day. I just don't. But if you can talk to me and give me a call and make it make sense, we might can get on the same page. I'm just saying, how long are we going to be on Zoom? I want to be in your face. I want to talk to you, not so much to where, I'm giving you COVID or nothing like that, but I want to be in the meeting. I want to be, you know what I'm saying, respected, valued, and treated well. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? I don't want to treat organizations that we have no relationships well and give them millions of dollars when we really have no track record or proof of what they're really doing with that money. We just don't. And I don't care who's pushing, got their big foot on my back. I'm using my arms to still try and do that push up, get off me. You know, like that's how it feels when they're paid and we're not. We haven't been paid. Shanae hasn't been paid the whole time she's been seated, CEA or COC. I mean, this
Wow.
goes back. We've been doing this for 10 years. I have, you know, and that's what I'm mad about. It's not at Jen.
Understood. But if we want to honor our invite to someone that we invited to present to us, I really want to know if we can actually take a vote today, or do we need to just move this to a special meeting?
Christy has her hand up, and then I want to put my hand up.
Okay, Christy?
Yeah, thank you, Noreen. I'm going to coattail on Karen here because the question was posed, how do we get our power? Because we do have power. HUD mandates that a COC board be established in order to get this funding. We all know that. So we're established, but we're like clown college. We're established as a board, but we're not respected. We're not given power. We're not given the resources we need. We're not respected. And I hear you, Karen. I am feeling very dissed as well. We are not given the tools we need and the power that we have. We're blindsided, we're railroaded, we're short-sighted. And again, this is not about Jen and this is not about Kelsey, because you're part of the system, but you're closer to governance, you're closer to the implementation board, you're closer to Mark, as is Marvin. But as the advisory board, here's where the teeth are. You can't pass that $57 million budget until we say go. This is our only job. So you come here with all this information, which the public barely has knowledge of, and yet it's up to us to pass it. And some of us on the board haven't even been here very often. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what the hell they're doing, yet it's expected that this is our function. Well, there's a lot of power there, but we're not treated as such. And so it's time for us to start acting like a board. And if we don't like what we're doing, and my email is acmember10@kcrha.org. What the hell is that? You know, I get people asking me these kinds of questions. What are you doing as a board? Well, gosh, I'd like to tell you. But most of all, it's not getting my questions answered from my very own board members and my very own CEO. And I ask a lot of questions that don't get answered. So back to what Karen was saying, we as a board have a lot of power, but we're being lassoed. Our hands are being tied. We're being duct taped. Our mouths are being just, hey, just shut up. Just, we'll give you the stipend. Shut up. Just do your job. Vote for what you need to vote for. And again, Jen and Kelsey, I echo Ben. I can't afford not to vote yes today because the community needs this money. So I will, but you need to hear what I have to say on record. But this is not okay. Our board is more important than that. And we have stuck it in here. We have stuck around with each other. And I'm now not afraid to speak up. And that's what I have to say about that. And Karen, thank you for starting this dialogue, because I can usually take a lot of crap, but you know, feckin' A, just like I typed in there. Thank you.
Cameron?
You're on mute.
Oh, yes, I want to just communicate to the board that I hear everything you're saying, and I totally can relate and empathize with where we're at. I remember being like super angry and super like vocal, you know, several months ago, but I think as I'm getting more comfortable with the content and I'm engaging more with the system performance and all the different elements of the system that we have to operate in, it's really informing me about why we need to totally revolutionize how we do our work. We need to be able to think think differently about how we're going to respond to homelessness and how we're going to fund programs and projects that serve the most vulnerable in our community. And I think we need to set metrics, really strict metrics that hold people and their agencies accountable for delivering racially equitable, like trauma-informed care. And and I want to see personally from the values and priorities documents, I want a demonstrable like answers to the questions that when we go to fund a program or a project, that they have to demonstrate how they are going to use the funding to achieve, you know, the long-term common goals that we have as a community. And frankly, like that's why I wanted to interject FFI into this conversation and into the work that we're doing as a board, because that's where I can see change actually happening, is when we start shifting the way we think about homelessness, the way we think about how to solve like social problems. It's going to require that we think differently about our work and how things have been historically. We need to revolutionize what we're doing. And I think we start by shifting how we think about social or community problems to focus on what, rather than focusing on the problem or necessarily like why things suck for people experiencing homelessness, let's think about how we can achieve well-being for that individual or that community or that family. How can we shift our policy development to think about not just ending a problem, but creating community-driven solutions to that problem? So I wanted to just convey that I feel your pain and I'm right there with you, but I do see hope. And I hope that people continue to drive and push back against systems that are rooted in white supremacy and that are harmful to the communities that we serve. So yeah, I'm right there with y'all, and I respect and love each of you.
We'll take Ben and then Noreen.
Okay. These are longstanding frustrations that have been going on since we first started, since the first days of trying, I'll just straight up say, gaslight this board into thinking that we weren't a board, that we were only an advisory committee. When we the community reconstituted the COC board in King County as part of creating the King County Regional Homelessness Authority, one of the most amazing things that we did is that, unlike most every other COC board in the country, we finally had a board that didn't have everyone at the table who sat at it looking just like me. But if we aren't going to actually and authentically support people to be able to engage and to be able to bring their life experiences and to bring, you know, the passions and the concerns and the knowledges that they have to be able to take meaningful action, then I think we're betraying that value, we're betraying our mission, we're betraying, you know, the working theory of change that is supposed to underlie KCRHA. So I will say this, I am willing to give one last chance, one last benefit of the doubt. Let me just throw in one extra complaint. You know, speaking about emails, I brought up months ago that this board was not included in some of KCRHA's default listservs when we didn't get invited to our own convening, to the Continuum of Care convening. And we were told maybe it went to our junk mail, but like it didn't. We just didn't get included. And then my concerns just didn't get responded to. And this kind of disrespect has been ongoing. Sorry, wanted to get that out there. It's been burning on my chest. So I am willing to give you all one last benefit of the doubt personally and say I will vote for this because the community needs it. But that's it. This is the end of assuming that we are going to be a rubber stamp. And we are going to have a conversation from here about changing our relationship with KCRHA and ensuring that people on this board actually get the support that they need and deserve. That's my position.
Thank you so much, Ben.
Thank you, Ben. And who was next?
Noreen Hill.
Hey, Noreen.
Hi, I really want to, you know, I joined this board. I missed a lot of meetings. It felt like a lot of it was orientation and, you know, I've been involved in different grants and writing grants and being on both ends of sides of grant making, no fuss and stuff like that. So I understand what's going on today, but what I don't support is the way that the team feels here. You know, my fellow colleagues here, it's just very, very irresponsible for whoever's in charge. And it seems like no one's listening to us. And what's the next step usually when you look at a chain of command? You know, is it going to get to that point where we're going to keep on going and letting other folks know who fund KCHRA? Like they have to start listening. They put us in place for a reason. And if it's not being fulfilled, then what the hell are we doing here? You know, that's one thing. The other thing is, were there any applicants that were from the BIPOC agency community at all in this whole thing?
Jen, did you want to answer
Yep.
that?
Yes,
Not that I know of.
Yes, no.
I just want to say, real quick, Jen, sorry, Jonathan Hempel has his hand up.
Thank you.
So there was no Black, Indigenous, or people of color agencies that put a proposal in then for this? Is it
So,
because
Right, my question too. Thank you, Noreen.
The agencies that submitted proposals were the 4 that were discussed, yes. So,
okay. And it's probably because there isn't very many that have permanent housing or supportive housing or,
right.
you know, those kind of things.
Right, as
Okay.
we know, yeah, because capital, and I think another barrier to that, right? And we're
Right.
especially as we're talking about systems issues,
Right.
I
Okay.
think another barrier of that is that this funding in particular does not allow for capital funds to be used. So an
Okay.
organization has to have enough resources to be able to have like that
Right.
capital, right? For either the
Okay.
building or the relationships with public housing authorities to be able to get the vouchers to pay for the housing.
Yeah, I had to ask that question.
No, I'm
being
glad.
that being from the community. But the other thing I wanted to say is the Plymouth housing, we've done a lot of work with them as an Indigenous community. They do good work. Same thing with Nike Manor. You know, they've helped a lot of our folks from tent cities and even living in the parks and getting them into housing. We had to help navigate as a Native community as far as, you know, making sure that they know that somebody who looks like them is going to support them through this whole process and help them navigate it. But both of these organizations I know have supported the Native American community, and they do good work, and we partner with them on different things. So I know that I know of those two, and just to update other folks, you know, who don't know them, there is good work that's happening there. And I really want to follow Benjamin's role because you know we have to get this approved, but I think we also need to make a decision and have a meeting on what we're going to do about this constant disrespect that's happening for our folks here at the table. There's got to be something that's got to happen to stop this, because it's just really it was really hurtful to hear. So
It is.
all right, that's everything.
Was there anybody in the queue before Jonathan?
Thanks, Noreen.
Reverend Kelly Brown has her hand up.
Well, Jonathan was before me.
Okay, that's what I was trying to gather. Jonathan. You're up next. You may be still on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can now. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I just want to say hello to the board. It's been a long time. I'm actually just coming in at the tail end of what the other brother was talking about, and I'm sad to hear that you all are still going through similar trials and tribulations that you were going through at the very beginning of this process and at the beginning of the standing up of the Regional Homeless Authority. I want to just reaffirm that you all are awesome individuals that have taken your time to be a part of something greater than yourself and to be, you know, leaders in this field, and you are very much appreciated, and you all are paving the way. And with that said, I'm not here to, I'm unfortunately here to talk about some more disrespect that's been going on, and it does not pertain to just KCRHA. So As you guys know, that formerly I was a part of the Lived Experience Coalition and also the Youth Action Board. I still am the facilitator of the Youth Action Board. I'm no longer in my position as board president, but a lot has happened. And one of those key things is that the Regional Homeless Authority, in partnership with the Lived Experience Coalition, have decided to undermine the Youth Action Board, another lived experience group that has co-created both the Lived Experience Coalition and has set up and were part of the design process of the Regional Homeless Authority by creating their own Youth Action Board and pretty much curtailing and pretty much pushing the Youth Action Board, King County Youth Action Board as it is to the side. And we've been actually in a silent battle recently with both the Lived Experience Coalition. I wouldn't say a battle, but a struggle, right? With both the Lived Experience Coalition and the Regional Homeless Authority, because it goes against the theory of change to do so. And in a sense, there's a lot. And I want to bombard you guys with a lot of more bad news. I'm like, dang, I don't want to come with you guys with more bad news. And a lot of you guys are on your last leg with this. But just, I guess, as a sense of responsibility so that you all know what's going on, that, folks at the KCRHA, whether it be the KCRHA or the Lived Experience Coalition, have been stated to be, one, anti-racist and, censoring lived experience. But it seems as though from what we've been going through as youth and young adults that represent lived experience, that have been leaders in this work, that have been influential in a lot of the different changes that have happened within King County, that that is not the case, or that they're failing to live into that. And so I don't know if I should tell you how damaging I think you guys can get, if you have a group of people that have lived experience that represent their population and that they're willing to do the work, how damaging and demoralizing and undermining it is for another group to create their own group of that same group in order to do the work and take over the work that other group was trying to do, right? I want you guys to know that the Youth Action Board is fully capable of doing the work. That they were part of the 5-year planning process. They had helped co-create the Cardia report, and a lot of different things that, and they were instrumental in setting up the Regional Homeless Authority in a lot of capacities. And so, we have this board, this collective of youth and young adults that are willing, bright-eyed, willing to do the work, and it looks as though they're trying to ice them out. With that said, I want you guys to kind of be vigilant to a lot of the things that are going on, because people that say that they're about things are not necessarily about what they say they're about. And I wish you guys the best and your struggle that you guys are gonna go through, and know that the Youth Action Board, the young people that have lived experience, that have been homeless on the streets, are with you. And we're gonna ride with you as long as you, as our elders, ride and are willing to support us and what we go through. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Dr. Kelly?
Yeah, just briefly, I'm because I'm assuming that we are done shortly. I just want to say that what we're bringing today absolutely is not focused on the presenters today, but there's been a long since I began, and I know since all of us began, frustration from the beginning. And what we'll do is, what I'm hoping is that you all can just say, because you said there'll be a meeting next Friday, that we'll need to approve something else. Will there be a meeting after that that you're aware of? And just to sort of give us a trajectory of what the required meetings will be in the near future, because when there's a hard stop to these approvals, the first thing on our list needs to be our demands. We're not suggesting anything at this point, because really, I believe that if we were to take a vote of folks who are ready to go, because I have put many private messages in, as I know you can attest to, some of you can attest to say this is my last time. I just can't deal with the, feeling that they are continuously having us here as figureheads to simply, check marks and not to have anything to say here. But our demands need to be met, and we need to meet with Mark, and we need to have conversations immediately so that we can not just feel as if we have power, but step into the legitimate power that was given to us. And so at this point, we need to get through this because it is for the community. But we also need to say what's going to happen with that money going forward. Because one of the reasons that I said yes to this, besides the fact that I have been involved with organizations and all the other stuff that I've done, and along with other people here, but my real reason for joining was so that I could say, let's create metrics like, if you have had executive leadership that is only white for the whole time that you've been a part of this COC, then we need to come for you first, because I'm not sure how you can only serve Black and brown people and continuously have these narratives around racial equity that mean nothing and keep getting the money. So, for me, this organization, this board, our reasoning for being here is not simply to do check marks so that the money can keep coming in. And I am very aware that if we need to unfortunately say that the money is not coming in so that people will start listening, I believe that folks are willing to bargain in that way. You have organizers on this board, friends, and you have people who are following the trajectory of where we've been. And so I just want to say that that these are demands, not suggestions, and that many of us are done.
Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate your voice. Thank you.
Rock, Kelly. Yeah.
I agree, 100%.
So I do want to ask then, what I hear people asking for today is basically what we would call a special meeting, particularly to coordinate everything that we want to put in writing, and then demand a letter stating that we meet with Mark and other leaders of King County Regional Homeless Authority to meet with us. Is that correct?
I would simply call it an executive session. It'd be us and us alone.
Okay. So
Make sure
me
you
and
send it
Marvin
to their
can,
spam.
yeah, me and Marvin will meet with Catherine,
Yes.
and have Catherine email everybody out an invite to that meeting.
Shanae, can we go ahead and just send our requests or our demands or our issues to you then in this response?
Yeah, that would be fine. I think we're going to be coordinating that in the meeting. I'd like everybody to have their voice and approve what we're going to present to people.
Okay.
And our needs, right, and our demands individually vary, but as a group, they are similar and alike. And so I just want to capture individual as well as a group.
So maybe if we don't vote for the SNOFO today, that'll get their attention, right? And we'll
So
have
I
to have
also
another
want to be
special
clear,
meeting.
it's under my understanding that today we're just voting on the ranking. And does that affect like, oh, that means that the applications are going through, Jen?
Thanks for clarifying that. So yes, that is meaning that, well, not that they're going through necessarily, but that they're going through as outlined. And here, let me share it again. So for folks who are visual,
It means that you'll be in compliance with being able to post them publicly, correct? Today.
that
is
too,
the
yeah.
deadline.
So
Correct.
we will get dinged as a COC if we don't, that's one of the little, rating criteria that HUD has. If we don't post it within a certain amount of time publicly, today is that due date. We have to do it before 5 p.m. The consequence of that, and this is ultimately up to you, this is the power you all have, is we will lose those points. So that's a decision you all can make.
What do you mean those points? What are you referring to?
So HUD will grant a certain number of points, right? Because we're competing with all of the COCs in the nation. And this is one of the point criteria is, did this COC publish the rating and ranking in the by the deadline, which is today? And we'll either, if we don't publish it, then we'll lose those points, which could put us at an unfair advantage when we're looking at the whole COC competition. But that's, again, is up to you guys.
That's
So
gonna
HUD
affect a lot
rank-
of people. That's gonna affect a lot of our people.
HUD ranks and rates you guys just like you're ranking and rating the application.
Exactly.
Jen, would you
Yep.
like to rate the advisory committee right now?
I don't want to, that's not my role.
It was
And
a funny question. I was just trying to lighten the mood because we're all kind of
it's a very tense mood, and
So what
crispy
are we
right
gonna
now, I
do?
would say.
What are we gonna
Yeah.
do, you guys? Are we gonna?
So what this will be,
Can
I
I-
think, yeah, we got 3 minutes. Do we want to vote today? Needs to be maybe our last decision before we set an executive session to figure out how we're going to work.
Can I-
What are we
Can I
gonna
just
do,
clarify?
y'all?
Wait, sorry,
We're
can I
just
just clarify?
voting for,
We can vote yes today, the list will go up, and then we still have to do the second vote. So we are not ceding our authority right now with this vote, correct?
I
Okay.
agree,
Correct.
Kelly. I vote yes. I vote yes. It's Karen Taylor. I vote yes.
we have to take a roll call.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
And I just want to respect what Ben just mentioned, because that's a great question, and it kind of goes back to Shanae's question too. So
Yeah, but we only got 3 minutes. So can we vote?
Can we just extend the time on here? Is it gonna die out at 3 minutes or
okay,
so?
For
I'll leave
5
it at that.
minutes.
Yep. What we have in front of us is what's being voted on today.
So so I need you to answer Ben's and mine question. Is there going to be another vote from us in regards to this money for these 4 or 3 agencies that we are moving
Today's
the
the
ranking on today?
deadline.
No, today is
No,
not the deadline. Today is
thank
one of the 2 votes, so that we're voting just on what's in front of us today, which is the ranking of how the applications will go forward in the final COC application. The next, and basically the essential final vote, is the consolidated application, which we are requesting a special meeting with you all next Friday, the 14th, to
Thank you
make
for
a
that
final vote on that.
clarification, Jen.
Of course.
So I motion to move forward with the ranking vote. Today we'll be ranking voting on the ranking of the 4 agencies that applied for the snowfall. At this time, I'm putting a motion forward to
I second.
start the vote.
Catherine?
Thank you for the second. Catherine, can you take roll call in the midst of voting yes or no for the ranking of the snowfall, please?
I sure will.
Thank you.
Tamara Bowman,
Yeah, aye.
Reverend Dr. Kelly Brown,
Aye.
Jenna Burgon. Oh, she's not here. Okay. Lise Castro,
What specifically are we voting on? Because there was a lot going on there.
what we are voting on now is the ranking of the application as it stands right now.
I'm gonna refrain.
Is that an abstain?
That is an abstain, yes.
We don't have a quorum.
So we don't have quorum.
We now lost.
An abstention doesn't, I don't
No,
believe
no,
an
it does
abstention.
Abstention
quorum.
doesn't negate. We still have quorum. The majority of the vote, whichever way it goes, yay or nay.
Keep taking the
will-
vote.
Okay, keep taking the vote.
Okay.
Shanae Colston,
Yes.
Brianna Franco, absent. Marvin Futrell,
Yes.
Christy Hamilton,
Aye.
Noreen Hill,
Yes,
Benjamin Mishk,
Aye.
Linda Peoples, absent. Okay. Marisol Tapia,
Yes.
Christina S. absent. Robin Tasuda, Karen Taylor,
Yes.
Sherry Tillman.
Aye.
Have I missed anyone? Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. With 10 yays and 1 abstention, the motion carries.
So the
Thank
meeting
you.
is close to over. Are we gonna talk about the fact that certain people don't even know that they're supposed to be getting a $30 an hour stipend?
I don't, does anybody not understand that? I would ask the board. And is there a suggestion for us having an executive session to work through this and many other complexities that we're having right now and how we want to move forward with our communications with KCRHA?
Bring
Well,
that up
I
in the
sent out-
executive session.
Go ahead. Who
Go
said?
ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jen.
No, I sent out an email because I haven't been paid since June when I got terminated from the LEC. That's the last time I got paid. So I haven't received any of my stipends, and I don't remember all the meetings that I've sat in since then, all the side meetings, all the extra meetings that I can put on the thing. So I just was suggesting that since King County Regional Homeless Authority has gotten all this money now and hired all these people, that somebody ought to be designated to keep an account of the meetings, like maybe the secretary, like maybe Kathleen, or, you know, or maybe one of the chairs. But if people have been getting paid, I need to know. And I also need to ask you, what hours did you put in for? Because I can't remember. I have too much going on. There are other members, Christina Satchowitz, that hasn't been paid. Shanae Colston hasn't ever been paid. And I don't know if Dr. Kelly Brown has been, Reverend Dr. Kelly Brown has been paid or not, or even knew she was supposed to be getting paid.
Your question.
So-
Yeah, so the only reason why I'm getting paid is because I'm being paid through the Youth Action Board, which is being undermined by the LEC supposedly making a new Youth Action Board, regardless of the relationship that the YAB has had with the COCs in the past. But with regards to logging your hours, the meetings have been the first 2 hours, or sorry, the first Wednesday of every month for 2 hours. And we have had the special meetings that should be on the website. One of the admin people from KCRHA should be able to email you what those hours would be. And based on the minutes, like those track whether you were present or not. So they should be able to get that together for you if you ask.
I have asked.
Thank you.
Daniel Smith is his name.
I have asked, and he has not given us anything that we can use. That's why I say there needs to be another process, because the process that's in place right now has not been working for people, and people are still not paid. So that's not the answer.
So that is something we will have to decide together as a board. I will revert that what we have to work with and consistently run up against not being able to make changes as we've needed to is what we agreed to when we
Mark
started. And how
Jones
it
spoke
works.
to me about this when I asked him directly at a meeting, said that he would look into it. So I would be wanting to talk to one of his secretaries or even Peter about that, because I'm not in agreement with you about it, Marvin.
I'm not looking for agreement. I'm looking for the process for the board to move forward.
Yeah, but I'm
We're
not
made up of
asking you for an
individuals, but
answer. I'm
we
not
are not
asking you for an answer because you don't
single
have the
entity.
authority to
So
give me an answer.
So
You
once
don't.
again, I
Okay.
want to.
So I just am not going to argue with
Karen,
you about it. I'm not
Karen,
talking to you.
It's
I'm
406.
I'm gonna
talking
need
to the
you
whole
to,
board, not you. Okay? I'm
Okay.
not talking to you about it. I
Please
don't want
mute.
your answer.
Please mute.
So we will be sending out.
I want to
Can we-
thank everybody. Let's thank the public for bearing with us and apologize to the folks who were unable to present today and work that we've asked for, requested from them. Hopefully, if we can develop an agenda that can invite you back, we will do so. There is much work to be done for us, both internally and externally, and we want to thank the public and them for the thing. Can we go to, can we just end the session and stay online?
Well, there's a question in the answer, so I need to address that.
Got it?
The question was, can the money be held up locally once it's released by HUD?
Is it okay?
Jen, do you know if that's true?
Yeah, thank you for that. The ways in which it could be held up is if, let's say, one of the ranking organizations decides that they no longer want to move forward with what they've proposed. That has happened. That's had happened in the the previous NOFO that you all were a part of. in which what would require is HUD would not yank the money from us per se, but what we would have to do is we'd have to issue another RFP or some other process to be able to identify another organization to fill that gap and to receive those funds.
So I think the question is more of, hey, we approved this ranking today, and now we'll go into that second vote, right? And then we vote for the money. So then say like HUD's like, yeah, you guys are approved for that 14 for the next 3 years.
Yep.
That's what we're asking. So once that money, once it comes from HUD, can that be held from the agency that applied for the funding if they do that or no?
No, so that's what I'm
Okay.
trying to say. Yeah, no.
Gotcha.
The only reason that could be held up, though, that's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, I see.
We are that agency, right? KCRHA is that agency. We're the pass-through agency from HUD to who we're gonna, who you all just voted to give it to.
Right.
If one of those agencies backs out between now and next year, at that point, yes, it could technically be delayed because we'd have to find a new agency to give those funds to. Yeah.
But we couldn't withhold the money. King County can't hold the money from the agency once it's received. Correct?
Not unless there was valid reason. I mean, we want to get the money into the, people who need it, right?
Correct.
Into the community. So there's no, and that's our job, is to try to get the money out as soon as we can. Otherwise, it's just sitting here and not being helpful. So, yeah, unless there's a reason.
Thank you. Nope, you're good. Thank you.
And I want to also say too that it's not so much that you're really making yourself look like who you care about. The people that was on the agenda and making yourself look good to whoever you think you look good to. You don't look good to me because I know you don't care about me and you don't care about the community. That's why you don't want to do that. That's why you keep trying to shut me up. But you can't shut me up because I'm not following you. Nowhere.
Do we have any other business?
And I just
today,
have
folks?
a quick follow-up because I need to leave the meeting, but Jennifer, to respond to your comment there in the chat, I guess maybe I'm a little confused. So I'm looking for a summary of how each of the proposals were rated in each of the areas that they were rated under. So if you have something that tells me, okay, this is how organization A was evaluated in each of the elements within the application. This is organization B, C, and D. Or whatever you have that has that summary. But if you can share that with everybody in an email,
Absolutely.
that would be great.
Yep. I'll resend the criteria, which is again how the raters used, the lens and what they used for criteria to make points and to delegate points. And then I'll also provide an overview of all of the raters' points and how that all fleshed out because it was an average, right? So I'm happy to share that. And then also I can put together all of their comments too, so you can see some of the things that were like discussed and flagged and things like that. Is that helpful?
Great. Yes, thank you.
Yep, I'll get that to everybody. If it's okay, I'll just email you all directly since there's, you guys.
That'd be helpful. Absolutely. The more information, the better. We are an information gathering board. We love the information.
Janae, what was your experience with the stipend situation?
Well, I've never been paid in like the 2 years I've been working. So we're going to have an executive meeting and we're going to write down all of our comments, questions, concerns, and complaints as a group. We will dictate a letter and present that as a whole board to King County Regional Homeless Authority and kind of just plant our feet into the ground and say we're not budging, because that's what I hear everybody willing or stating. I also hear people saying like, this is the last chance. You either get your shit together or you don't. So
I'd like to acknowledge John Hempfield's hand being up.
thank you. I can't see hands, so I appreciate that. John?
No, thank you all. Please stand your ground. Please stand your ground. And I just wanted to also, I don't know. It kind of, to me, it seems as though like you guys are going over stuff that's really heavy right now. And so it might be that, but it kind of feel like it got lost in the sauce that of what happened, what's going on with the youth and young adults that have been basically a part, that sit on the COC board, and like Rihanna and Liz, and then also what's been going on in terms of the youth that are wanting to do the work. And so just to reiterate that right now that they're trying to dismantle the Youth Action Board and recreate another one. And not only that, is that like they've been telling the Youth Action Board that they don't want us to do the work that pretty much that we've been leading since the very beginning of the Youth Action Board's founding at this point and around youth and young adult homelessness. And so for the 5-year planning process, we are fighting right now to even be in the room, even though the Regional Homeless Authority and the Theory of Change states that we as youth and young adult with lived experience should be a part of those discussions around the planning for youth homelessness. We are not. And I know that also that the NOFA might have something to do with youth and young adults. And so just so that you all know, we were told that we were out of compliance. I don't know how. When we checked everything, I don't know if you as a COC board has received any notification of that. But we, from our understanding, everybody we talked to, we aren't. And in fact, that like when it comes to this actual work, that it's the Regional Homeless Authority that's out of compliance. And so if you guys are sending a letter to them, it'll be like, I'll go and basically like let the rest of the action board know, and maybe we can do something and sign on and support you guys. Because we, again, are you guys is basically your youth component, the people that you said that you wanted to essentially like lead this youth work. So I just to bring that back up. I know everything's on fire already, but yeah, there's more.
No, thank you for that, John. I know that you've reached out to me in the past about this, and hearing that today, you know, me and Marvin have spoken in regards to the situation, but hearing that today is disturbing in regards to having you guys removed from the spaces where your voice needs to be heard, you need to be seen. That's highly concerning to me. And I'd like to add that, like, meet more. I don't know what Marvin's plans are, y'all's, but we have to figure that out, because that is something that I did research on when I first learned about the YAB, and there is obligations that we as the COC board could not support. But one of the things that we can support is the placement and having their voice heard in those spaces. And so I'd like to definitely dig more into that. Thank you.
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
All right.
Motion to close the meeting.
Second.
All righty. Thanks, everyone.